where you're just looking at your phone and then suddenly you're not just looking at pictures, you're like comparing your entire life to someone else's.
Could be their vacation, their new job.
Right, their ridiculous promotion on LinkedIn, or even just, I don't know, their perfectly aesthetic Tuesday afternoon. It's wild.
That feeling is completely universal, and it's probably one of the most draining habits we have. What's so fascinating, and what we're really diving into today, is that this compulsion, it runs so much deeper than just social media algorithms.
Okay, so this isn't just about FOMO. We're talking about something more fundamental.
Precisely. This is about foundational human psychology. So our mission today is to peel back the layers of what's called social comparison theory, look at the frankly surprising costs, psychological and physical, and then, most importantly, give you an actual toolkit to break free from that trap.
So it's about shifting from looking at everyone else's journey to really finally embracing your own.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's unpack that. I've always just thought of comparison as, human nature, a reflex. But you're saying there's a formal theory behind it from decades ago.
That's right. It all starts with social comparison theory. Leon Festinger pioneered this back in the 1950s. And the core idea is actually brilliantly simple.
Okay.
It's that we humans have this innate drive to evaluate ourselves, our opinions, our abilities, and when there aren't any objective metrics.
Like, there's no ruler for being a good parent or a creative person.
Exactly. So what do? We determine where we stand by looking at other people. We use them as our yardstick.
So if I start a new hobby and I have no idea what the standard is, I immediately look at the person next to me to figure out if I'm doing it right.
That is the mechanism. And the theory, it defines two main directions this can go. The first one is upward comparison. That's looking at people you see as, better off, more successful, more skilled.
That's the one that just makes you feel instantly inadequate. You see that huge career milestone on LinkedIn and boom, that's upward comparison hitting you right in the gut.
Yes. The big pitfall there is immediate self-doubt, inadequacy, even if you were feeling great about your own progress just a minute before. Then, on the flip side, you have downward comparison.
Which is when you look at people you think are less fortunate.
Right. And while that might give you a temporary little ego boost, especially if you just had a setback.
Oh, well, at least I'm not doing that badly kind of feeling.
Exactly. But the research shows it doesn't actually help you grow in the long run. It's more of a psychological band-aid. It doesn't drive any real progress.
Yeah. So, okay, if this theory is from the 50s, what happens when you introduce the internet? I mean, suddenly the sample size for comparison goes from your neighborhood to the entire planet.
The environment just changed so drastically, and the problem intensified. Social media takes this basic human mechanism and just amplifies it. It gives us this endless, highly selective stream of data.
And it's not just any data.
No. We looked at a 2023 APA study that found a really strong correlation between time spent on visually focused platforms, think Instagram, TikTok, and a significant jump in negative self-comparison.
That's an important distinction. Why are the visual platforms so much more damaging than, say, a text-heavy forum?
Well, it's because the visual nature makes the perfection feel so immediate, so tangible, and frankly, effortless. You see the stunning photo of the perfect living room.
Well, you don't see the 2 hours of frantic cleaning and staging that happened right before the shot was taken.
Precisely. And the study noted this effect was there even for people who started out with high self-esteem. The sheer volume of it can just wear anyone down.
It's that classic idea of comparing your behind-the-scenes bloopers to everyone else's highlight reel.
That's a perfect way to put it. But it's also important to remember that the pressure goes beyond just our feeds. I mean, we live in a culture that is just rooted in this idea of constant competition.
The never-ending race to the top.
Right. We're sold on these external markers of success, the big house, the fancy car, the job title, as if that's the only definition of a good life.
And that pressure to constantly achieve and acquire more is just exhausting.
It is. And, crucially, we have to talk about the pervasive myth that underpins all this, the myth of a pure meritocracy.
The idea that hard work alone is what gets you to the top.
Yes, and that if you haven't achieved those things, it must be because of a personal failure of effort or ability.
But wait, we know logically that's not true. We know things like privilege, systemic issues, just plain luck. They all play a huge role. So why does that myth still have such a psychological hold on us?
Because it's a simple narrative, but it's a psychologically brutal one. By overlooking all those other factors, the meritocracy myth puts the entire burden on the individual. So when you see yourself lagging, you don't think, maybe the system is uneven.
You think, I'm not good enough, I failed.
Exactly. It just adds this layer of guilt and shame to the whole comparison process that is completely unfair.
Wow. So we're dealing with a curated digital world and a punishing social expectation. I mean, that sounds like a recipe for some serious distress. Let's get into the actual costs of playing this game.
The cost is profound, and we really need to detail it. The core psychological cost is what you said earlier. It creates a game you just can't win.
The treadmill that just keeps speeding up.
Right, because there is always someone ahead. It leads to this constant internal loop of feeling fundamentally not enough.
And what does that do to us emotionally? What's the toll?
Well, you see increased anxiety about performance, a much higher risk of depression from that feeling of hopelessness, and then some of the most corrosive emotions, resentment and envy.
I think we've all felt that flash of envy that can curdle into resentment. It really does eat away at your own joy.
It does, and the link to just being depleted is so strong. A 2021 study in the Journal of Happiness Studies found a clear link between frequent upward comparison and just lower overall life satisfaction. But the key thing here is how it leads to burnout.
Okay, explain that mechanism. Why burnout specifically?
Because comparison demands a huge amount of your cognitive energy. You're not just glancing at a photo. You're constantly tracking, evaluating, diagnosing, and assessing yourself against these external goalposts.
Goalposts that are often unattainable or maybe not even relevant to your own life.
Exactly. And that continuous cycle is mentally and emotionally exhausting. It drains the resources you need for your actual work, your relationships, your own goals. The cognitive work of comparison is a direct path to burnout.
That makes so much sense. It's like having a full-time unpaid job as a performance auditor for everyone you know.
That's a great way to think about it. And the costs, they aren't just in your head, this chronic stress, it shows up physically.
How so?
When you perceive a threat, and to your brain, a social threat or an ego threat feels very real, your body releases stress hormones.
You mean cortisol. So my body doesn't really know the difference between a lion chasing me and seeing someone else buy a nicer house.
In many ways, no. Constant social comparison keeps your system in this low-grade state of fight or flight. And over time, that chronic cortisol leads to real physical problems. We're talking sleep problems, tension headaches, a weakened immune system.
Wow. So comparison is literally making us sick. And it's all based on a warped perception of reality. We just assume everyone else has it easy.
We only see the polished surface. Think about it. That colleague with the huge promotion. You see confidence, but they might be secretly battling intense imposter syndrome every single day.
Or the friend with the perfect family photos is dealing with serious issues behind closed doors.
Exactly. You're looking at the finish line photo and assuming their race was effortless. You only see what gets posted.
And I guess that brings us to the ultimate, maybe the saddest cost of all. It robs us of our own potential.
It is the ultimate cost. Comparison wastes irreplaceable energy. Instead of investing your time, your focus, your creativity into goals that actually matter to you, you spend it all trying to fit into someone else's mold of success.
You're trying to write yourself into their story instead of owning your own.
That's it, exactly.
That really hits home. Okay, so we've established how deep this runs and how high the cost is. The good news is, comparison is a mindset. It's a habit. And habits can be reshaped. Let's get into the toolkit for breaking free.
Absolutely. Let's transition to the actionable strategies. And the first theme is most critical, building awareness and boundaries. You just cannot change a habit that you don't even recognize you're doing.
Right, so we have to become like private investigators of our own comparison habits.
For sure. The first strategy is to recognize your triggers. This means keeping a journal. And don't just write down what you saw. Write down where you were, who you were with, and critically, how you felt physically.
Oh, interesting. So like a knot in your stomach or a racing heart.
Yes. Recognizing that physical signal helps you catch the habit in real time. Then, since social media is the main amplifier, the next strategy is obvious. Limit your exposure.
And not just limiting time, but really curating what you see.
Ruthlessly. Unfollow accounts that consistently make you feel bad. Use the screen time tools on your phone to create some friction. I mean, we saw in that Q Research Center report how much pressure people feel to present a perfect life online. You have to recognize that and push back.
And I love the idea of actively challenging the illusion.
That's the third strategy here. Challenge the highlight reel. When you find yourself envying someone, stop. Actively humanize them. Force yourself to write down 3 potential problems or struggles they might be facing that are definitely not on their feed. It breaks the spell.
Okay, so that's building boundaries.
Right.
What about shifting our internal metrics? If we stop using other people as our ruler, we need a new one.
This is fundamental. The most empowering strategy is to define your own success.
Stepping back from all the noise.
Yes, taking the time to actually write down what success truly means to you. Is it deep relationships, creative freedom, mastering a skill? When your definition is aligned with your own values, the external stuff like the car or the house, it just loses its power.
And once we have our own metrics, the next strategy is, I think you called it, comparison's natural enemy.
Cultivating gratitude. We call it comparison's kryptonite for a reason. Comparison is all about scarcity, what you lack. Gratitude shifts your focus to abundance, what you already have.
A 2020 study in the journal Emotion backed this up.
It did. It showed that a regular gratitude practice significantly reduces feelings of envy and social comparison.
So instead of thinking, I wish I had that, you shift to, I'm so thankful for this.
Exactly. The action tip is so simple. Every day, write down 3 things you're genuinely thankful for. And then finally, under this theme, try to reframe comparison as inspiration.
So instead of, I'll never be that good, it becomes,
And what can I learn from this person? Consciously shift from envy to curiosity. Focus on their skills, the steps they took. Transform their win from a judgment on you into a potential blueprint for your own growth.
That leads perfectly into the next theme, fostering resilience and self-compassion. Because we're going to fall into the trap sometimes.
We absolutely will. And that's where cultivating self-compassion comes in. When you catch yourself being harsh, treat yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a good friend who is struggling.
Ask yourself what you'd say to them.
Yes. What would you say to someone you love who is feeling this way? Use a grounding exercise. Just place a hand over your heart and remind yourself, this is tough and I am enough just as I am.
And at the same time, we have to actively build ourselves up.
That's right. You have to celebrate your wins, counteract all that external focus by building a strong internal sense of accomplishment.
I love the suggestion of a wins jar.
Yeah.
Physically writing down your victories, no matter how small, to create this undeniable record of your own progress.
It reinforces the most important idea. Focus on your unique journey. Life is not a sprint where everyone starts at the same line. It's a long, winding marathon. You cannot compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Their carefully edited success montage.
Exactly. Focus on your own growth, your own trajectory.
And finally, let's talk about environment. Because if you're surrounded by people who are constantly comparing, you're just feeding the beast.
Your environment matters so much. Surround yourself with supportive, uplifting people. You know that old saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
So true. Nurture connections that celebrate you, not connections that make you feel like you have to perform.
Right. And then there's mental hygiene. Use mindfulness to anchor yourself in the now. Comparative thoughts almost always live in the past or the future.
So by focusing on the present moment, on your breath, you can quiet that noise.
You bring your attention back to your own direct experience. And of course, as a final note, if this habit feels chronic, if it's really impacting your mood and your relationships,
Don't be afraid to get help.
please seek professional help. Therapy, especially things like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT, is so effective at helping you recognize and restructure these deep-seated negative thought patterns.
This whole toolkit is so comprehensive. But it's also clear that this is a gradual shift. It's not a switch you just flip.
It is a journey. Overcoming this is about progress, not perfection. But now you have a pocket kit for redirection. Just imagine the freedom. Imagine shifting all that energy you were spending tracking and envying others and turning it toward your own goals, your own passions.
That's the ultimate reward, isn't it? Reclaiming your time, your energy, and your joy.
And here's a final thought for you to carry forward from our deep dive today. Imagine a life where you are fully, confidently the protagonist of your own story, shining in your own unique way. You're no longer a supporting character checking the script of someone else's narrative. Ultimately, the only person whose standards you truly need to meet and the only person you really need to impress is you.